about to table her federal budget for 2023. Now, of course, inside of this budget, we're going to get a whole lot of information, including things like new benefits that people might be able to apply for, as well as what they're going to be doing about these sort of housing issues in Canada, other spending, potential new tax credits, potential new taxes. We're going to have to wait and see. They say that this is going to be an extremely sort of conservative budget in terms of the amount of spending. So it's going to be interesting to watch Chrystia Freeland here deliver this budget and sort of take note of what's going to be included. It's likely that she's just about to start her speech here. So welcome to the stream. I'm going to bring up the chat here so you can watch along with me right there. Let me know that you're here, and let's just get right on into this because it looks like they're about to start. I'm going to throw my headphones on here and let's see what's in store today. Thanks for joining me here on this late March afternoon. Let's dig in. Okay, let's get the audio rolling.
On budgetary policy.
Okay.
Ms. Freeland, seconded by Mr. Boissonneau, moves that the House approve the general budgetary policy of the...
Good to see you all sort of pile in here. Aaliyah, Alex, Chad, Snow Bunny, Basematic, Justin, Perry, great to see you. Here we go, folks. Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 83-1, I'd like to table in both official languages the 2023 budget documents, including notices of Ways and Means motions.
Details of the measures are contained in these documents. Pursuant to Standing Order 83-2, I'm requesting that an order of the day be designated for consideration of these motions. Seems a good idea, right?
I support that. Thank you.
The ceremonial bringing over the budget. Look at how. Okay, so that's
Mr. Speaker,
those are copies of the
Canada's
budget already
economy
bound.
has made a remarkable recovery from the COVID recession. Last year, Canada delivered the strongest economic growth in the G7. There are 830,000 more Canadians working today than when COVID first hit. We have recovered 126% of the jobs that were lost in those first months, compared to just 114% in the United States. When we announced a Canada-wide system of affordable early learning and childcare in our 2021 budget, we said that it would create new economic opportunities for mothers all across Canada, and thus greater prosperity for all of us. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? It worked. I am so proud to say that last month, the labor force participation rate for Canadian women in their prime working years hit a record high of 85.4%. That's feminist economic policy, Mr. Speaker. It works. So today, Mr. Speaker, there are more Canadians with good jobs than ever before. Putin
and the pandemic have driven up inflation all over the world. The central banks reacted by launching one of the swiftest and most synchronized cycles of monetary tightening since the 1980s. And today, in Canada, inflation is going down. The inflation rate has been dropping for 8 months in a row, sitting at 5.2% in February. The Bank of Canada expects it to fall to just 2.6% by the end of the year. In February, Canadians' average hourly wages rose by 5.4%, so paychecks grew by more than inflation. This means Canadians from coast to coast have more money in their pocket at the end of the workday. However, we all know our more vulnerable friends and neighbors are still suffering from higher prices. That's why our budget contains targeted, temporary relief from the effects of inflation for those who need it.
Let's see what these new benefits are. This is probably where she announces it.
For 11 million Canadians and Canadian families, the new grocery rebate will help offset higher prices without fueling inflation.
Car ce que tous les Canadiens
Because what all Canadians want right now is for inflation to keep going down and interest rates along with it. That's why the budget I've tabled today will enable Canada to remain the country with the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We are seeing to it that the wealthiest Canadians and large corporations pay their fair share of tax so that we can keep taxes lower for middle-class families and invest in our healthcare system and our social safety net.
Canada is a country of peace, order, and good government. We have strong institutions and a resilient financial system that is the envy of the world. Our country has a proud tradition of fiscal responsibility. That is a tradition we are determined to uphold. We are refocusing government spending while taking great care not to reduce the services and direct support that Canadians rely on. By exercising fiscal restraint, we're ensuring that we can continue to invest in Canadians and in the Canadian economy for years to come, just as we have done since 2015. Because we know that investments in Canadians are also investments in our economy. This is what the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, has referred to as modern supply-side economics. Nous investissons dans le logement.
We're investing in housing because our economy is built on people, and people need a roof over their head. We are investing so that Canadian workers can acquire the skills they need and get to where the jobs are. We're investing to strengthen the immigration system. And we're bringing a record number of skilled workers to Canada to support our booming businesses. And we're investing in affordable childcare from coast to coast to coast so that more Canadians no longer have to choose between family and career. Investing in housing, skills, and immigration and childcare isn't just social policy, it's economic policy too, Mr. Speaker. The same thing goes for healthcare. So today, we are delivering the overall investment of $198 billion in our public healthcare system, which the Prime Minister announced just last month.
From helping every single Canadian find a family doctor, to tackling the unacceptable backlog of surgeries, to combating the opioid crisis that has devastated so many of our families and our communities, that has taken so many lives. We will ensure that Canadians receive the care they need. We will ensure that every single Canadian can rely on a world-class, publicly funded, universal health care system, one that is deserving of its place at the very heart of what it means to be Canadian.
Interesting framing so far. Spending towards healthcare, the most vulnerable Canadians.
And just as we are reinforcing the public health care system we have today, we are also expanding its reach. Since December, our investments have helped more than 240,000 Canadian children receive the dental care they need.
Bravo.
Just think about that, 240,000 Canadian kids, maybe their parents couldn't take them to the dentist before. Maybe their teeth hurt, maybe they missed days at school. It's so important. And that's why today I am so proud to announce the creation of a new Canadian dental care plan.
That's important because that's a key ingredient of Jagmeet Singh's Supply and Confidence Agreement, one of the things that's keeping the Liberal government in power and not forcing an election.
Of this year, by the end of 2023, we will begin rolling out a dental care plan that will eventually cover up to 9 million uninsured Canadians. This will mean that no Canadian ever again will need to choose between taking care of their teeth and paying the bills at the end of the month. It will mean you can't tell the size of someone's paycheck by their smile. These are significant and necessary investments, Mr. Speaker, because a strong and effective public health care system is essential for a strong and healthy Canadian workforce. And we need a strong and healthy Canadian workforce now, more than ever. Because as we wrestle inflation to the ground, Canada must also navigate two fundamental shifts in the global economy. First, in what is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution, our friends and partners around the world, chief among them the United States, are investing heavily to build clean economies and the net zero industries of tomorrow. At the same time, Putin and the pandemic have cruelly revealed to the world's democracies the risks of economic reliance on dictatorships. As a result, our allies are moving quickly to friendshore their economies and build their critical supply chains through democracies like our own. Together, these two great shifts represent the most significant opportunity for Canadian workers in the lifetime of anyone here today. Including our most senior and respected members of this House. Now, this is not hyperbole, Mr. Speaker, or mere turn of phrase. When President von der Leyen stood in this House earlier this month, she said that she wants Canada and Europe to join forces for the climate, for our economies, and to end what she called Europe's dangerous dependencies on authoritarian economies. When President Biden stood in this House just last week, he told us that we are at an inflection point in history. He said that we had all learned the hard way that just-in-time global supply chains make us vulnerable. And he urged us to work together to build a shared future where Canada and the United States can anchor the most competitive, prosperous, and resilient economic region in the world.
Yep.
These are our closest friends, Mr. Speaker. These are our steadfast democratic allies. These are our two greatest trading partners. And like so many of our friends around the world, they need the expertise of Canadian workers, the ingenuity of Canadian businesses, and the resources that Canada has in such fortunate abundance. Aujourd'hui,
Today, and in the years to come, Canada has to seize this historic moment, this amazing opportunity we have, or else we'll get left behind as the rest of the world's democracies build the clean economy of the 21st century. So, we are going to fight for Canadians and Canadian companies. We will make sure Canada seizes this historic opportunity. We are building a clean electric grid accessible to all Canadians from coast to coast to coast, which will protect the environment and provide Canadians and Canadian companies with clean, affordable electricity. We are making Canada the best place in the world for businesses to invest, because their investments revitalize communities and bring prosperity, in addition to good careers for Canadians. Canada has free trade deals with 2/3 of the world's economies. We are making Canada a reliable supplier of clean energy to the whole world. And whether it's critical minerals or electric vehicles, we will ensure that Canadian workers develop and process these resources and manufacture and sell the products our allies need. We will ensure that unions, which led to the creation of the middle class, remain on a solid footing. And we are helping Canadian workers get the skills they need. When the Government of Canada makes purchases of products from other countries, we will ensure those countries give Canadian companies the same access as Canada gives them.
Bravo.
So, Mr. Speaker, we are building big things here in Canada. From a Volkswagen battery plant in Ontario. To the Galaxy lithium mine in Quebec.
Yep.
To the Trans Mountain expansion in Alberta. To the Atlantic Loop. To the LNG terminal in Kitimat, BC. jobs, good careers for everyone, everywhere, from our biggest cities to our smallest towns, from Toronto, Ontario to Peace River, Alberta. For our auto workers building electric vehicles and our bus drivers who drive them. For our skilled tradespeople expanding our clean energy grid and building thousands and thousands of affordable, energy-efficient homes. For our miners and our energy workers powering Canada and the world. For our healthcare workers and our teachers who make our communities thrive. For our farmers and our fishers who feed Canada and the world. For our incredible service workers who are as essential today as ever.
For our forestry workers, for our climatologists, and for our ecologists. For our engineers who design hydrogen plants and who design small modular reactors. For our computer scientists who have transformed Canada into a global artificial intelligence superpower.
For Indigenous peoples, building major projects and sharing in the prosperity they create. And for our new generation of small business entrepreneurs, dreaming up solutions to the challenges of the 21st century, and their hardworking employees providing for their families all across our great country. As I've traveled across Canada over the past year, Mr. Speaker, I have met a lot of incredible, hardworking Canadians. Jeff, an electrician who lives in Etobicoke with his wife, Cheryl, an ICU nurse. They are proud of their jobs and proud of their family. Their jobs have made it possible for them to raise. As Jeff said to me, I've got the skills to pay the bills. Léonard.
I met Léonard. He's a software developer in Quebec City. He codes charging stations which are used all over the place, from San Diego, California to Happy Valley Goose Bay in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Two young union women, Nicole in Oshawa, who will start her first electrical placement this week. Well done, Nicole. And Kayla, first in Edmonton and then again in Calgary. She teaches apprentices to weld, and she gave me a couple of lessons, too. I've met potash miners and early learning and childhood educators. I've met scientists and innovators and the longshore workers and truckers who keep Canada's economy moving. And all across Canada, I've met people who value the same things. A good career that pays them well, doing work they're proud of. The ability to live with dignity, to be who they are, to love who they love, and to be judged on their character rather than what they look like or where they were born. The belief that if they work hard, they can afford to raise their children and launch them into an even more prosperous future. And the conviction, Mr. Speaker, that because they live in Canada, by birth or by choice, every single day represents a new, fresh opportunity. And that is what this budget invests in, the possibility for every single Canadian to share in the remarkable opportunities that Canada provides, and in the new era of prosperity that we will build together. The brave people of Ukraine have reminded me, I think they've reminded all of us, that we must never take our freedom and our democracy for granted. We have the power to shape our country's future, and we must always be sure to use it. What a gift it is to call this remarkable country our home. Canada is a land filled with good, hard-working people, people who do big and important things. And it is because of us, the people of Canada, and the big and important things we will do in the months and years to come, that I have never been more optimistic about the future of our great country than I am today.
Is that the end of the speech? Because we're going to go over a big summary here, if this is the conclusion. Going over everything that was said and then into a little bit more detail on how that will actually work for the things that we know about. Let's just make sure it's done before we dive into that.
Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Questions and comments?
So that is the budget. Now, typically what they will do is go into the questions and comments period where other politicians will sort of stand up and sort of ask questions, say why they don't like it, say the things that they do like. Usually we don't get a lot of new information from these questions back and forth. So what I think is more valuable now is first for us to do a big summary as to what was said in this budget presentation by Chrystia Freeland, what things were prioritized, what things weren't, do sort of like a one-taker summary video here live with you, and then going into the actual budget document and just getting a first glimpse, cursory look at what some of the numbers behind these things that have been mentioned actually are. So let's dive into that summary first. Thank you for joining me here. I'm going to go full camera here, and if you pay attention to the channel, you'll see that this little one-taker that I'm going to do live on the stream is what's going to be made into a summary video on the channel as well, so keep your eyes open for that later this evening. Okay. And forgive me for using all the notes that I took here to sort of keep me on track for this this video that I'm gonna make right here live with everyone here. Yeah, great to see you all in the chat. Okay, so here we go on the video. So we just heard from Chrystia Freeland and the Liberal government about their new plan for the next year. This is the federal budget 2023, where they outline some of their top priorities, some new benefits that people can apply for, some new programs, as well as where the government's planning on investing their, or rather our money going forward. This is going to be a one-taker video, so I'm going to refer to my notes here that I was taking as I watched through the entire budget speech. But if you want to catch that budget speech, you can watch the replay of the live video that was filmed earlier this afternoon. Okay, let's dive into things right away. So she started off by talking about the positives of the Canadian economy. Jobs bounced back after COVID. They were really happy with this. They said our early learning and childcare program, which was part of the 2021 budget 2 years ago, has been successful. It has worked. She says that the labor force participation rate has hit a record high among women of 85.4%. And she says that that is due to the early learning and childcare that was announced in previous budgets. So saying this is a good thing for Canada. A higher labor force participation rate definitely is, but some people might wonder if this is due to the lower childcare costs or due to a higher cost of living, forcing people to actually go to work more and not being able to make the choice between family and work. Now, she then shifts topics and says, okay, here's what our macroeconomic situation is looking like. She says that Putin has driven up inflation and the central banks had to respond by raising interest rates, and today inflation is going down in Canada. She says as a result of the central banks being so aggressive with these interest rates, that's why we're seeing inflation going down. And she also points out that average hourly rates are positive in terms of real rates for the first time. Now, wages have been growing in Canada for a while, but they haven't been growing in real terms. That means when you take inflation into account, there hasn't been any wage growth for a number of years now. But now, for the first time, our wage growth is sitting around just above 5%, and inflation is sitting just a little bit below that. So for the first time in terms of real dollars, taking into account inflation, that wages are going up for Canadians. So she says, hey, that means Canadians have more money in their pockets, and sort of pats herself on the back for sort of bringing that up. up. And also, she then shifts topics into talking about how vulnerable Canadians still need help. She talks about some supports and benefits that may need to go to certain vulnerable Canadians, which we're going to get into in a little bit more detail in the coming days here. The first one that she mentions is the grocery rebate, something that we predicted on the channel just yesterday. This grocery rebate, she says, will help to offset higher prices without fueling inflation. This is her claim. And also, she says that the budget today will allow Canada to keep our low debt to GDP, our low federal, like a countrywide debt, the debt that the government goes into, she's trying to keep that ratio between that and what Canada can actually earn on a yearly basis in line. She said that this budget is still going to do that. Also says that it's important for them to make sure that wealthy Canadians and corporations are paying their fair share so we can invest in healthcare and our social safety net. Going to be interesting to go in there because there have been talks about some tax increases that we might be expecting. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I'm going to be bringing you the information that's within the budget in the days to come, if there are actually these proposed tax increases that she mentions here. She also says that we're reducing government spending without cutting Canadian services. There's been some leaks ahead of the budget saying, okay, maybe they're doing a study of their consulting costs, the sort of outsourcing to firms like McKinsey that has largely grown over the Trudeau administration, saying, okay, maybe we're taking a closer look at that, trying to bring that spending down so that we're not actually cutting services, but still reducing spending. She also says we're investing in housing because people need a roof over their heads. But again, another thing to note is that necessarily putting money towards something doesn't mean that that money will actually equal positive outcomes, something we've talked about on the channel as well, but sort of judgment withheld at this point. We're just going over what's in the budget. She also says we're strengthening the immigration system to help support our booming businesses, and we're investing more in childcare so that more Canadians can go to work instead of having to choose between family and work, sort of talking more about childcare that we already touched on. She points out the whopping just under $200 billion that have been pledged to the Canadian healthcare system. This will happen via provincial transfers because, of course, healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction issue. So $200 billion, or 198 if we want to get too specific, that will be transferred to provinces to help cut down wait times and help the opioid crisis. Interesting that she brought up the opioid crisis because there have been several links between McKinsey, one of the consulting firms that the government has most hired over the past 8 years, and also the same firm that has been accused of perpetuating that opioid crisis by consulting some of these pharma companies. Now, she continues on saying that their investments have helped more than 250 or 240,000 children who have received the dental benefit. This was something that was announced in last year's budget, approximately $600 per kid to help cover dental costs. And she announces a new landmark dental care plan that will be out by the end of 2023, which will eventually, so we're going to get into the details on what eventually means, cover up to 9 million uninsured Canadians. So that means that if you're covered by work or you're covered by some other kind of plan, it's likely that this federal dental plan won't help you. But she says that, okay, for people who don't have any kind of insurance, by the end of 2023, this program will begin expanding so that people don't have to choose between paying the bills and paying to get their teeth fixed. Okay, moving on. This is a big chunk of the budget speech, talking about the green transition and clean tech and how much the U.S. is prioritizing this, along with friend-shoring to avoid unfriendly partners, saying, okay, we don't really want to import and export between Russia and China as much anymore. We want to bring it back to our, onshore it, either to nationalize it, bring it within the country, or to friend-shore with our sort of closest allies. She says that this is a really big opportunity because that's something the U.S. is looking to do, and Canada could be one of the providers for some of the things that they're trying to reshore or friend-shore. She says it's the opportunity of a lifetime. And she says that just-in-time supply chains are a vulnerability, and that's another reason that the U.S. might want to partner with Canada more to produce goods that our allies need. And she says we got to seize this moment. So sort of trying to rouse up support for all of the investments that are likely to come to take advantage of this program. She says that we're building a clean electric grid that will be accessible to all Canadians, providing citizens and companies alike with clean, affordable power, saying that we're going to become a supplier of clean energy, critical minerals to the rest of the world while building the capacity to develop, process, manufacture, and sell the products our allies need. And she says, hey, we're actually helping our Canadians to build these skills. So likely inside of this budget, there's something about the ways that people can apply for funding to go get these critical skills that are going to be important for the types of jobs that they've decided to support here. They say that our plan means good jobs, good careers for everyone, everywhere. She talks about small businesses and entrepreneurs, but she doesn't mention explicitly what might be available for them. And then she goes on and just sort of lists out every single type of profession, every single type of person that she says she's talked to. And she says all these people all around Canada value the exact same things: a good paying career, the ability to live with dignity and freedom, being judged on their character, and the belief that hard work will pay off for their families, and that it's important for them to have the conviction that every day in Canada is an opportunity. So that was sort of her closing rah-rah, we are Canadians, we are strong, we are proud. So that is a highlight of everything that was said during the budget speech. Again, keep your eyes posted on the channel in the coming days as I get more specific into the individual benefits, the individual plans, the individual changes. If there's a tax increase anywhere, you're going to hear about it here on the channel. So subscribe and hit the notification bell and like this video so that you're shown this video when it gets posted. But for those of you who are just tuning into this video and aren't currently on the live stream, thanks so much for watching. I hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time. Beautiful. Thanks for being with me, everybody. There's the summary, and that's a one-taker on how I film these videos. You get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes. So hopefully that summary caught some of you up if you weren't following along as we were watching that live stream. Now we're going to take about 10 minutes and go into some of the depths of the budget. I actually have it right here. Let me pull it up so I can show you. I've found the actual document for the budget here. Beautiful, and here it is, and there you are in chat. And we're going to go in here and get a cursory look. Again, I can't go into too much depth on this live stream specifically. We got about 10 minutes left here, but we're going to go over some of the sections, find out what's actually in here, and see if we can get some high-level information on what the numbers look like. So I'm going to slide this over just a little bit so you can see it more clearly. Get this set up, and maybe that's a little too zoomed in, and I'll get out the annotator so that we can draw on this. There we go, Epic Pen. So a 2023 budget, a Made in Canada plan, strong middle-class affordable economy, healthy future, and statement and impacts, report on gender equality, diversity, and quality of life. Okay, so we're likely going to get a big letter from Christopher Freeland here at the top. Yeah, this is pretty much, there's the letter I was talking about. Table of contents, this is the important stuff. This is where we're going to sort of see what we're actually going to get inside of this. Economic overview, okay, a plan for the changing global economy, investing responsibly in Canada's future. Sort of just trying to get a high-level look here on some of the new things. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this, the new grocery rebate, see what that's really about. Cracking down on junk fees, that's interesting. Automatic tax filing, also interesting. Supporting our seniors, we'll see if there's any sort of expansion of OAS or GIS inside of this. So that'll be interesting as well. Okay, so those are some key highlights that maybe we'll take a look at right now, as well as an affordable place to call home. Okay, so this is announcing, like, they announced this like 2 years ago. It feels like, maybe it was just a year ago, but it feels like 2 years ago. The tax-free first home savings account, that's just being launched now, but it was announced like a year and a half ago, it feels like. Building more affordable housing. Again, I'm not super impressed by a lot of the Liberals' housing policy over the past number of years. It'll be interesting to see if anything's different here, or if it's more just we're throwing money at it, but we don't have any way to actually track if it is doing what it should be or not. Okay, Chapter 2, investing in public health care. Okay, obviously that was a big part of the speech that we covered today. So more sort of funding for that, more provincial health transfers to the provinces, and dental care for Canadians. This will be something that we'll look at here today, just to see what the details of that are. Jagmeet Singh will definitely be happy about this, meaning that he will be able to continue his supply and confidence agreement and won't be forced to call out the Liberals for not including this detail. It'll be interesting to see how thought out this is, and if this was a last-minute addition to avoid an election from the Liberals. Okay, so affordable energy, good jobs, clean economy. Okay, some tax credits, Canadian Growth Fund, investment tax credit. Okay, so this is a bunch of tax credits that likely businesses investing in clean energy will be able to apply for. Investing in Canadian workers, labor market transfers, federal Okay, just getting a high. Let me know if there's something glaring here that that I'm not bringing up that we're sort of seeing here in this table of contents that we want to go into. I've got a few highlights in mind already, though. Okay, what I want to see is there was a lot of talk of tax increases above a certain income level. I'd be interested to see that. I know that there would be a lot of pushback if that is actually here. Chapter 4, Advancing Reconciliation, Building a Canada That Works for Everyone. All right. Clean air, clean water. That's all good to see. Not exactly things that is applicable to everyone, though. Local Food Infrastructure Fund. Okay, making life more affordable for persons with disabilities. This is another one to highlight here. Are we going to see more from Carla Qualtrough, the disability minister, who has been paying a lot of lip service to the disability benefit that's supposed to be coming, but was announced 900 days ago or something like that, and it still isn't in people's pockets, and probably won't be for another year plus because it's still in the Canadian Senate. Okay, that's going to be a rabbit hole if I start ranting about that whole procedure. All right, continuing on, stronger immigration system. That would be something to look into in future videos. Right. Okay, so this is some stuff about the defense spending, something that they just recently got absolutely torn apart by the parliamentary budget officer, the Auditor General, Karen Hogan, who said, hey, we've been giving out billions and billions of dollars, but the organization responsible for tracking this has no way to track what the funds have done. Like a controversy that would have been huge if it weren't on the same day as the budget that this was released. But maybe we'll see some more videos on the channel about that. But maybe not something to highlight today specifically. Combating financial crime. Okay, I wonder if there's... Oh my... That'll be interesting. There's something that I'm interested in. Protecting Canadians from the risk of crypto assets. That I wonder what stance they're taking. They clearly voted against a crypto sort of positive, it's like sort of setting up the regulatory framework that Michelle Rumpel-Garner brought in earlier in this year. Will be interesting to see how that impacts people who are interested in that industry, but also businesses that could contribute to the economy who are in that industry. Is this going to be a budget where they say, hey, we want to grow the Canadian economy, but not like that because it gives us less control? Who knows? That's another one to highlight. And... a fair tax system. Okay, so this is likely where, refocusing government spending. This is likely the sort of the less outsourcing that we've talked about. Old age security, IT modernization, that's good. A fair tax system. Okay, so ensuring the wealthiest Canadians pay their fair share. I'm wondering if what this is tied to, what is considered the wealthiest Canadian. We'll get into it in a second, but I always question when they increase taxes above a certain income level. At the time, that certainly looks like, okay, those are the Canadians that need to be paying more. But then you think, okay, 20 years down the line with inflation, obviously very high and likely to be high again at some point in the future, all of a sudden you're taxing more and more the people that are in the middle class and the people that are below the middle class as sort of these income amounts go up because of inflation. But the taxes, like those tax thresholds, don't get raised simultaneously, right? So that's why I always look at this type of thing with a critical lens, even if it wouldn't apply to me or most people. If it's a high income bracket, well, what is the impact on that for the future? And how could we be sort of taxing people that are well above? But we'll take a look at that. Tax on share buybacks, that's for corporations. Okay, so those are some of the highlights. Let's get into them now. So let's go from the top here, the ones that I sort of highlighted there. The first one was going to be this new grocery rebate for Canadians. So groceries are more expensive today, and for many Canadians, higher prices on essential goods, For 11 million low and modest income Canadians, it will give up to an extra couples with 2 children, $467, single Canadians without children up to $234, and seniors with an extra $225 on average. It'll be delivered through the GST credit mechanism, so direct deposit to your bank account, like you see those sort of GST payments. By targeting this grocery rebate to low-income Canadians, we're not going to impact inflation because they don't want to be seen as impacting inflation. So it's $2.5 billion in spending of targeted inflation relief to Canadians through a one-time payment from the CRA as soon as possible following the passage of legislation. So this likely will need to be voted on and go through the entire parliamentary process through the House of Commons, through the Senate, receive royal assent before you can apply for this under $500 benefit. That's interesting. I wonder if there's calculations here on the amount that they earn together. Whoa. So that's a low sort of starting amount. Works at a cashier, and so talking about a couple who work, and together they earn $38,000 a year. That's poverty levels for two people's income to be at that. So I wonder if that is the max. If $38,000 as a family will get you the maximum amount, or where that falls in the range. It doesn't seem like there's information about what those sort of ranges are and how that'll be calculated, what the max threshold is. But the fact that they're not showing any kind of incomes above $38,000 makes me think that might be the cap. So that's interesting. Maybe it won't apply to as many Canadians, but maybe it will apply to the people who need it most. Interesting to see. I'm going to go back up to the table of contents here so we can get to our next topic. Again, keep your eyes on the channel in the coming days because I'll get into more details on this stuff. We're just getting a cursory overview here of what is inside of this. Okay, that was all interesting stuff. Making life more affordable for small businesses. Okay, we'll get into those in days to come. Tax-free. Okay. We were going to go into the new dental care plan. Let's get into that. Okay, so expanding access to dental care. Budget 2023 is $250 million over 3 years, starting in 25-26, and $75 million ongoing to establish an oral health access fund. The fund will be a complement to the Canada Dental Care Plan. Oh, is this something different? Here it is. This is the main one. 2023 provides $13 billion over 5 years and $4.4 billion continually every year after that to implement the CDCP, Canada Dental Care Plan. The plan will provide dental coverage for uninsured Canadians with annual family income of less than $90,000. So on average, if you got to be earning under $45,000 a person if you're in a two-person family, with no co-pays for families, incomes under $70,000. So if you're both making $35,000 or less, or it sort of maps out differently, then there won't be any co-pay. It'll just cover it fully. But if you're paying over that amount, you might have to pay a percentage of it, but then the government will cover another part. But then any families that are earning over $90,000 or over $45,000 per person, right? If you're thinking of a two-person family, well, they won't be eligible if you're over this $90,000 limit. So that's interesting, and it could apply to a lot of Canadians. But like I said, these sort of numbers, these thresholds, I worry about inflation getting higher and wages growing with that, and all of a sudden $90,000 as a family income doesn't stretch as far as it used to, and more that's a sort of middle class income when you start to consider it like that as time goes on. So interesting to think about. So that is the new Canadian Dental Care Plan. Let's get back up here to this table of contents. So that was interesting. Dental care plan, investing in the clean economy. We'll talk about that in days to come. Investing in Canadian workers. So that's like the reskilling and things like that. The other high level things that I wanted to take a look at were stronger immigration system. That would be interesting to look at in days to come as well. And then, so let's take a look at this. Protecting Canadians from the risks of crypto assets. How is Big Daddy government going to protect me from my own decisions? Let's see today. Emerging risks. That's not the crypto one, is it? Okay, here we go. Ongoing turbulence in crypto asset markets and the recent high-profile failures of crypto trading platforms FTX and of Signature Bank. Signature Bank is not a crypto trading platform. But they're not saying it is, have demonstrated that crypto assets can threaten the financial well-being of people, national security, and the stability and integrity of the global financial system. So you're blaming the failure of Signature Bank and the failure of FTX on crypto instead of blaming it on the fraudulent CEO who was using customer funds on a centralized platform, nothing to do with crypto, has to do with the platform. And you're talking about Signature Bank, also there was SVB Bank, who went under largely because of the whiplash from the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, and all of a sudden they're not earning as much on the bonds that they hold, and they're actually, bonds are worth far less, so they're not able to give the money out to the people who are coming and doing this bank run. Okay, interesting framing here, one that I, at first glance, don't agree with. there will be a video on this in the weeks to come, maybe a little bit of a rant. To protect Canadians from risks that come with crypto assets, there is a clear need for different orders of government to take an active role in addressing consumer protection gaps and risks to our financial system. Sure, I would love for them to be more consumer protection around crypto, as long as it is rational and it's only on centralized actors. If there was more consumer protection around FTX, and FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried didn't cozy up to regulators in the States, such that FTX wasn't regulated effectively, then that would be great. It would be great to have more consumer protections to avoid scams and all of the countless fraud and issues in the industry, which there is admittedly a lot of. But I doubt that they will have the nuance to target those actual areas that we need consumer protection and distinguish that from areas that are free citizens making their own financial choices. There's a big difference there. The federal government is working closely with regulators and provincial and territorial partners to protect Canadians' hard-earned savings and pensions, and Budget 2023 proposes new measures to protect Canadians. Protect, protect, protect. Let's see if this is actually going to do any protecting, or if it's just, oh, we want to have control over the financial system fully. Okay, so they say, to help protect Canadian savings and the security of our financial sector, we're going to give OSFI, the OSFI will consult federally regulated financial institutions on guidelines for publicly disclosing their exposure to crypto assets. Okay, so they're going to get OSFI to talk to the big banks and Wealthsimple and any other platform where you could hold crypto, centralized platforms, albeit, and have them disclose their exposure to crypto assets. That's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. For them to say, okay, here's what crypto we hold, here's how we hold it for our customers if we're holding it in custody. Not awful. Secure pension plans are the cornerstone of a dignified retirement. While pension plan administrators are required to prudently manage their investments, the unique nature and evolving risk of crypto assets and related activities require continued monitoring. To help protect Canadians, protect, protect, protect. Budget 2023 announces that the government will require federally regulated pension funds to disclose their crypto asset exposures to OSFI. The government will also work with provinces and territories to discuss crypto asset or related activity disclosures by Canada's largest pension plans, which would ensure Canadians are aware of their pension plans exposure. Oh, that's actually not bad either. Maybe I spoke too soon on this. This is saying, okay, big pension plan funds have to expose or tell people what their exposure is to crypto assets. Don't hate that. Largely probably coming as a result of the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan holding around a $50 million stake in FTX that went to zero, right? However, depending on the way that this legislation is framed, that wouldn't have even fallen into the realm of crypto assets because that was equity, like stocks in FTX that they owned, not actually any crypto assets. So whether or not this is just doing lip service to try to make people who don't understand the situation think that the government's protecting them, that might be the case, but not awful here. Nothing saying like you can't hold things or you can't use things or have businesses in this area, just looking for more disclosure. Don't hate it. The federal government launched targeted consultations on crypto assets as part of the review of the digitalization of money announced in Budget 2022. Okay. Targeted consultations, meaning they're just choosing the people that they want to talk to. Moving forward, the government will continue to work closely with partners to advance the review, will bring forward proposals to protect Canadians from the risks of crypto asset markets, and will provide further details in the 2023 Fall Economic and Fiscal Update, likely in October or November. Okay, not as bad as it could be on crypto. Definitely not as bad as it could be. But I will say that the language here is kind of revealing that they don't see any potential for this to be an economic driver. They don't see the potential to lean in and identify areas of this industry that could be positive for Canada and distinguish those from the ones that are not. It seems like it's a large lumping in of only talking about risks of crypto asset markets, risks. This is a bad thing. We need to protect you from it, rather than making this consultation about, yes, the risks and how we can protect people from those centralized parties that provide risk of fund management, like we saw with FTX. Certainly something that should happen, but there's no distinction saying, and also trying to find the areas that the government can support and properly regulate the industry at large, such that there is more development of positive businesses that could contribute to the economic development of Canada. No distinction in there between all crypto bad, that's what this vibe is, rather than, okay, a lot of crypto bad. Let's find the places that could be positive for Canada. So a little bit disappointing there, but not as bad as it could be. I'm sure you can sort of just take some of my, like, figure out some of my views about this industry from the way that I talk about it. But it is an industry that I think there is a lot of positive in, and even if a lot of folks don't agree. All right, so let's move back up here. That was interesting to get into. We're going to go back to the table of contents because I think that there was a little bit more in here that we need to get into. So we got down to the protecting people, protecting Canadians. Effective government, okay, we're going to get into that, but likely stuff about the diminishing of amount of consulting fees that they're going to be paying, something that absolutely ballooned at the same time that the public service itself ballooned. So we have more consultants and more people directly in the government. We'll talk about that in days to come. Again, subscribe to the channel if you want more in-depth stuff on this. We're just getting a cursory overview. Okay, yeah, and I want to see what these tax numbers are as the final thing that we're going to talk about. Ensuring the wealthiest Canadians pay their fair share. The alternative minimum tax is intended to ensure that the highest income Canadians cannot disproportionately lower their tax bill through advantages in the tax system. Okay, so targeting loopholes. The AMT has not been significantly reformed since its implementation in 1986, and thousands of the wealthiest Canadians still pay very little income tax. Of course, if you're not familiar, the way that they do this is by finding sort of areas in the tax system that they can take advantage of, right? Looking for areas that they can write off expenses against their businesses, ways that they can structure it so that their income is extremely low and it is actually paid into a corporation, so they're just paid at the corporate tax amount, and then maybe they get a dividend or maybe they get a salary from that company instead of actually hitting it all in their personal income taxes. So that's interesting that they're sort of pointing that out. So to make sure that this happens, there's going to be amendments made to this AMT. What was that? What is that short for again? Alternative minimum tax. From 15% to the 20.5%, and further limit the excessive use of tax preferences. These amendments would generate an additional $3 billion revenues over 5 years, beginning in the 2024 taxation year. So the taxes that would be filed in 2025. So this would increase more than fourfold from 40,000 to 173,000 as the minimum tax, alternative minimum tax, significantly increasing the income level necessary to pay the AMT. This would result in a tax cut for tens of thousands of middle-class Canadians, while the AMT will more precisely target the very wealthy. Okay, so it's looking like this won't impact people with incomes under $173,000, but for people above it, the possibility that this 20.5 sort of broad AMT or this minimum tax rate would apply to them. So again, interesting. I'm going to have to look into this in more detail. I'm not super familiar with the AMT and what it's been doing in the past, but we'll dig into this for you and bring you more information in the days and weeks to come. But it's likely that it won't apply to people under $173,000 in income. So that, I think, would be something that a lot of people would be okay with. But again, I do bring up the point of more and more so, a $173,000 income, while it is very high today, that's a very high income. I'm not saying it's not. I would love to have an income like that, and I'm sure that a lot of people here would as well. I do take it with a grain of salt, saying, okay, in the future, if inflation continues going up and like the value of a dollar today is less than the value of the dollar tomorrow, then at what point will this not be an extremely ultra high net worth sort of level? And do we trust that they will then raise it again when we get to that point? That's what it would be interesting to take a look at. So they say that 99% of the AMT paid by individual Canadians would be paid by those who earn more than $300,000 per year, and about 80% of the AMT would be by those who earn more than $1 million a year. Okay, so clearly trying to say this is for high income individuals. Interesting, gonna look into that a little bit more. So those are some of the sort of high level things that I wanted to talk to you about today, or talk about with you today. And I hope that was helpful, gives you a better idea of what's included in this budget, less direct support for Canadians than I think a lot of them would have thought. But some interesting areas in here that we're going to have to dig into more. Again, subscribe to the channel, notification bell so you can find out when I go live like this. And yeah, I appreciate you subscribing and supporting the channel like this. Thanks so much for everyone who's tuning in. I've got to end the stream now. So again, thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will catch you on the next live stream, and keep your eyes posted for more summary videos in the days to come. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Hope you have a great Tuesday night. Bye, everyone.